Hey everybody, what's going on? Here we are, another happy Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Coach Duke, Coach Steve, In Zone Sports Academy for another great edition of Dominate the Diamond. We're going to talk about sliding, we're going to talk about diving, we're going to talk about how our week has gone on the ball field with the different ages that we're coaching. I'm coaching 11, Coach Steve's coaching 12, and we have players of all ages and skill levels. So we have a fun list of stuff for you guys today. And what do you got, Coach Steve?
Yeah, and as always, we're looking forward to the questions, so keep them coming. I know I have a lot to talk about from my 12U practice. Duke has a lot to talk about from his son's practice last night, and then we're always interested into what's going on in your practices all around the world, and looking forward to seeing what we can do to help.
We'd love to. We always ask for this. We'd love to hear where you're watching us from, what state. Also, what level are you coaching? Are you coaching T-ball, minors, majors, high school, college, pro ball? What are you coaching? Tell us that, and what age team are you coaching? So that stuff all really helps us, especially when you're asking specific questions of us. What age are you coaching? So it helps us with, are you in coach pitch, player pitch, T-ball? So that when we're explaining a drill or showing something specific, we know exactly we can make it appropriate to that age. So Coach Steve, what do you want to start with today? Where do you want to start?
I would touch on your practice last night, some of the struggles that you guys had.
Yeah.
Going over first and thirds, 11U kind of majors, first time with leads and pickoffs and rundowns and that kind of situation.
Yeah, so yesterday was the first time that we actually got to go outside. As you know, we're in New Jersey, so we've been practicing. We had about 10 practices inside already. We had some field time, we had some turf time, we had some cage time. So we've gone over some of the leading and the stealing and the pickoff moves. The first and thirds we've touched on a little bit, but we've really been focusing more in January and February on ground balls, fly balls, kind of the skill sets behind everything. But last night we were actually able to go outside. So we had an hour and a half practice outside, and so we had to introduce. We broke the 12 players up into groups of 2. So we had 2 base runners, we had 2 on the right side of the infield, 2 on the left side of the infield, 2 on the pitcher's mound, and we had 2 catchers. So what we did was we had both of the pitchers get a chance to hold runners on. We got to work on our pickoff moves. We also got to work on stealing. So the kids were actually reading off of a real pitcher opposed to the coaches kind of going through the motions, so to speak. The kids were actually getting signs of, were they going to pitch or were they going to pick? And then the guys on first all had a chance to steal breaks, and we had to talk about looking in after the third step in case it was a fly ball or a ground ball. So I was standing in with the bat. I was telling the catcher the sign, so if he gave a pickoff, he knew that the pitcher was picking off. If I gave him number 1, I knew he was going to pitch the ball, and then I would either hit it or just let it go by, and he would work on throwing out the runner at second, or I would hit a ground ball or pop it up on purpose and make sure that the base runners were reading the pitch and stuff like that. So since it was all their first times, there were some tears because there were a couple of balks in a row, so we had to stop everything. We had to make sure they came set, took a deep breath, and then picked, So we were really, it was a lot of their first time, so it was a little bit stressful, but we had to just keep on talking about, hey, it's your first time. And everybody was making the same mistakes, right? Everybody was balking here and there, or, some of the runners were forgetting to look in, of course. So it was a challenging practice, but super fun, and we've always had a goal sheet for players, and we handed those out at the end, but we also made a goal sheet for coaches, because we have to look at the practice plan, figure out what was good, figure out what wasn't good, and then jot down notes. So it kind of helps us get ready for tomorrow's practice. Tomorrow we're back inside. We have an hour on the field, and then we have 30 minutes in the cages. So whoever didn't throw live yesterday is going to throw live tomorrow. We're going to work on some of the things that we didn't do that well. So as a coach, just jotting down what we didn't do well and what we need to talk about helps me for tomorrow's game plan, because it's already finished. I already know what I'm doing. So that's kind of how my practice went yesterday. So how did yours go?
That's good, and I think it's important to make sure you slow down. I think sometimes we get, we're excited to attack everything all at once. After our practice last week, I sat down with my assistant coach and we went over our game plan for the following practice, and he said, I want to work on bunt defense, I want to work on first and thirds, I want to work on rundowns, I want to work on pop fly communication, and it all sounded really good because we wanted to get it all in our hour and a half practice. But we worked on bunt defense, and it took forever. And I think, we get into a rush sometimes where we want to give them a crash course in everything instead of really slowing it down and really talking to them about the importance of knowing the situation, not just knowing the play. And that's the one takeaway that I had from practice is, we call out our bunt defense play, and it's, our third base where he's having the hard read. So for you coaches out there that don't know what that means, that's first and second, nobody out. Almost every Little League team is going to try to bunt in that situation. The offense is trying to bunt it at the third baseman because they want to advance the runners from first and second to second and third. So as a defense, our job is third baseman's going to hold his ground unless it's bunted right at him. The shortstop's going to cover second, the second baseman's going to cover first, the first baseman's going to crash, and the pitcher is going to crash, but also crash on the third base side because as a defense, we want to try to get the force out at third. And it was funny because we were running the play correctly, but the kids they didn't really understand the purpose behind it and what our goal was. So I asked the guys, I said, in this situation right here, what's our goal as the defense? And, the third baseman raised his hand and he just said, hard read. Shortstop said, I got to go to second. So they knew what they were supposed to do, but they didn't really know that, okay, in this situation, this is what the offense is trying to do. This is what we're trying to do. So we're trying to get the force out at third, but if we don't get it, worst case scenario, we just get the out at first. So I think it's really going position by position, talking about what their responsibility is or what the play is called for, but then really explaining why we're doing it in that situation. And when we slowed it down like that, we explained it a little bit better. And it's good to ask questions, coaches. I think you have to really ask the players, what are you trying to do in this situation right here? What's our goal here as a defense, in bunt coverage, first and second, nobody out. And you'd be surprised. You'll get some funny answers because the kids literally told me exactly what they were supposed to do, but not really knowing why we were doing it. And it took some time. We didn't even get to first and thirds. We didn't get to rundowns. It took a while to go through it, but I think they grasped it a lot better at the end.
And that brings me to a point that I'm thinking of that happened yesterday was, since they're stealing and their throws down to second base, what we saw a lot of times is one shortstop would run to the bag and he'd go behind the base. The catcher would throw the ball, it would hit the runner, and then it would go by, and we'd be like, hey, Mikey, get in front of the bag. Then we'd rotate, the next two guys would go up, and a different shortstop would make the same mistake. So instead of it happening all day long and all practice long, we blew the whistle, we all ran over to second base, we explained what we were talking about, why you get in front of the bag, so that way you can catch and tag opposed to being behind the base. And we kind of went through each base because it's the same exact thing when that happens. It was an awesome play I saw in NCAA softball. There was a fly ball to the right fielder. She caught it, she cannoned it to third, but the third baseman was on the outside of the base. So when the runner slid in, the ball hit the runner, ricocheted off, and then went flying into the outfield. The runner scored. Where if she would have been inside the bag, meaning if this is the base, right? If this is the base right here, and the ball's coming from right field, if I'm standing right here, I can catch and tag and she's out. But instead, the third baseman was back here. So when the throw was coming in, the girl slid and it took a hop, hit her, and went into the outfield. So we were talking about making sure that we're on the inside part of the base. And then it was funny that I just saw that, last night, and it was pretty much that's why we do it. So the moral of that is when the kids start doing something wrong, instead of just waiting and waiting and waiting, just stop, because maybe they don't understand what you're trying to say. Remember, especially at 11, 10, 9, 8, we know what the words mean, and we know why we're saying it, but they have no clue. So try to really keep it simple. Do you want to go over Coach Yard?
Yeah, we got a good one. Youth Athletics, Recreation Development. Western Washington 9U tournament team. How many days of practice is too much? With 2 weekend days of tournament play, we've been practicing 2 days a week. When there are no tournament games, we practice 3 times a week. General thoughts on how many practices a week and how long? Thanks for all that you do. Coach, that's a really good question. I think 2 practices is perfect, especially with tournament play on the weekend. I found myself, we were in tournaments every single weekend last summer, and we practiced 2 times a week, but there were times that I would cancel that Tuesday practice. We'd practice Tuesday, Thursday, and then sometimes we'd play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're in a lot of perfect game stuff, so it turned out to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And it was really just monitoring their arms and how many games are we playing this weekend. Guys were shot by the time Monday hit. So after playing 7-8 games on a weekend, sometimes I'd cancel Tuesday. Maybe we'd do an optional BP just for 45 minutes on Wednesday. Do our hour-and-a-half practice on Thursday, and then get ready to roll again on the weekend. I think sometimes when you're in tournaments, it's weekend after weekend, and there's a lot of throws. So I think 2 practices is good. If you're playing in a league play where you're only playing a game or 2 on a Sunday, 3 practices is good. But making sure that you're monitoring how many throws they're making. I think that's the biggest thing at that age. They're playing a lot of games on the weekend. And these tournaments, they're back to back to back. 5, 6, 7 games. It's different if you get knocked out and you're playing in a consolation game on Sunday and you only play 3 games over the weekend. Well, then you can have two heavy practices during the week where not all of your pitchers got to throw. Maybe you can do some simulated games where the guys that didn't pitch get to pitch on Tuesday. But I think if you're playing a full schedule, I definitely wouldn't go over 2 weeks, probably an hour and a half each practice. And like I said, just really monitor how many throws they're making.
And I also think that on the off weekends, maybe you do scrimmage a single game or a doubleheader on the weekend just to continue to keep the pitchers throwing and seeing the hitters seeing some live pitching and the pitchers throwing live. And we even, during the middle of the summer, we'll have 3 weekends on and take a whole weekend off and then have 3 weekends. And everybody always wonders, why are we off this weekend? What? And if you ask the players and you ask them about their arms, it's to give them a break. It's to give their arms a weekend off of having to pitch and throw and stuff like that. So, like Coach Steve said, stagger it. Be smart with your days. Who pitched? And what their volume is going to be for the week. Anthony Crockett. Hey guys, I'm coaching a 9 and 10-year-old kid pitch, and I have 3 players who have never played baseball prior to the season. They're absolute liabilities on defense and at the plate. On the same time, I have 4 kids from my 8U All-Star team. It's like 2 different worlds. How can I get this group to gel and to start winning? We are 1-7. That's tough. I mean, we deal with that a lot. Like, not on our teams as much, but when you're coaching rec ball teams or we watch teams that come in here in the wintertime, we deal with that almost with every team. They have 3 or 4 elite kids on it, and then the rest some of them are okay, and then some never played before. So what we do is we break them up into 3 different groups to start the practice off. We put the 3 really good kids together, we put the 3 intermediates, we put the 3 that just started, and we try to develop them as much as we can, and then we mix them up. And then they have to work on playing together, learn how to play together, learn how those better kids can't throw it full speed to a kid that they know can't catch the ball, right? We have to make sure that we as coaches are trying to put them in the right positions, but we also have to try to, tailor that and kind of lower that a little bit. Some coaches will be like, oh, I don't care if you can't catch it, throw as hard as you can. Well, that's stupid coaching. That's not smart. If I'm going to take it and throw the ball to Johnny and he's standing right there, and just because I can throw hard doesn't mean I throw hard to him. I have to make sure I throw it so that he can catch it. This is a team game. This is a team sport where we have to make sure that we're being successful, working together, and we have to do our very best to coach up those kids that never played before. But that is a very difficult and tough situation.
Yeah, and I think creating those practice plans, based on their skill level, because you don't want the best kids on the team to get discouraged and not want to be there because you guys aren't winning games, and you don't want the worst kids on the team to be scared and quit baseball. So like Duke said, try to break them up in the beginning of practice, and maybe you have one coach that just works with those 4 beginner players, and you're working on basic stuff like how to catch the ball with your fingers up, how to field a routine ground ball, how to play catch and throw accurately, what a 4-seam grip is, and you might be working on a lot more advanced skills with the better kids. To get them to gel and work together, I would definitely talk to the all-star kids on your team and the better players and let them know, like, hey, we're trying to build some confidence in these kids. We need you guys to be the leaders. Teach them what being a leader means. They're only, 8 years old, 9 years old. Teach them what being a leader is and teach them how to pick up those guys. Because I think those kids that are, the very beginners, I think it'll go a long way if the better kids on the team, pat them on the back and say, hey, you got this. So what? If you make an error, who cares? And I think you'll start to see the kids, work and gel a little bit better. The last thing you want is those 4 kids sitting in the dugout saying, oh man, so-and-so's up, or he made another error, so we're not going to win. So I think it's maybe talking to those 4 kids separately and saying, hey, let's do a good job at being the leader out here. We know you guys are the best 4 players, but we all have to work together to get these kids to, up their level of play and play with some confidence.
Hey, Sonny Ross, real good, good seeing you on here again. Love the off-the-foot drill video you put out. How important do you think simplifying your messaging is with young players, like within that drill or with using keywords rather than long-winded phrases? Once a player already understands a concept, I assign keywords. I mean, we do that all the time. I mean, trying to keep it as simple as possible. That's why if you looked over here to the side, we have a million different gadgets and tools and training tools and cones. We use cones all the time because the visuals of what we want them to do, the right left timing, how to keep your front toe up, how to create angles to the ball. Well, sometimes just talking about it, I mean, who knows what's really going inside and they're actually grasping. Where if you start putting cones on the ground, you start drawing lines, you start using some T-claw stuff so they're seeing the lines and understanding it, that really helps. So sometimes you don't need any words, you just need visuals, and you'll see how fast they understand what you're doing, and then you can add some words and phrases and stuff. But I think that's one of the keys to how we make some of the harder skills easy to learn and how fast we can teach things to any age player is because we know how to kind of put the recipe together of what training tools are we going to use, how are we going to explain it, what drills are we going to do to get them to understand the skill and be able to master it really quickly.
Yeah, and I definitely think using language that they understand is key. So like Duke said, using the tools, using the different props to help visualize the drill, but also we have to speak down to to that player's ability and age level, and ask yourself, if I was 10 years old, would I understand what I'm trying to teach right now? I think that's something that we all make mistakes doing as coaches sometimes, is we want to help so much, and we want to do so many things at once, and we want to fix everything instead of maybe focusing on one thing at a time and really simplifying it. And one phrase I love to use is, what did you feel right there? If I'm doing a hitting lesson, I might say something that goes in one ear and out the other to that player, but if I ask, what did you feel right now, or what did you feel on that swing, I get some crazy answers. And it's good, because then it gets the kid thinking a little bit, it gets him to talk back to me. It's a conversation going back and forth, as opposed to me just saying, you need to do A, B, C, D, and E. It's, hey, what you feel right there on that swing? And sometimes it has nothing to do with the drill, sometimes it's an off-the-wall answer, but at least it helps me understand as a coach, all right, this kid is either grasping it or he has no clue what I'm talking about right now, and I got to go back to step one and restart. But I think, going step by step, whatever the drill is, whether it's an infield drill, a pitching drill, a hitting drill, starting in the very beginning, starting with the basics, using language that they understand, and really trying to slow it down. And let's master one thing at a time. Let's not just try to, cram it all into our 30 minutes or 1 hour session and fix everything at once. You're really going to see progress when you go, step by step. And I think that's really important. So language they understand, and then like Duke said, using props, using things to visualize. I love video. Video feedback for me is huge. I'll set my phone up and I'll just have the player watch the video with me, and I'll say, what you see right there. And again, kids they'll feel something, they'll see something in the video that might just, spark something in their head that's like, oh, that's it. Now I understand it. Because we say it all the time, kids are going to learn seeing it, feeling it, or hearing it. And everybody's going to learn a little bit differently. Some kids are thinkers up there, and they think too much. So then it's just showing them a video and giving them that positive reinforcement that this is what we're supposed to be feeling right here.
While Coach Steve is talking about drills, we have over 900 videos in our membership, and it's absolutely free. Check out in the comments. You can get it for 7 days. All of our templates, all of our practice plans, all of our videos, everything that we have is in our Dominate the Diamond membership. There's baseball courses, softball courses, pitchers, catchers, infield, wall ball drills. I think there's 15 courses in there. How to run faster, 60-yard dash times. So all ages, all skill levels, from T-ball all the way to the elite athlete. You can get that, look at that, and go over that. Chad Lowe, good morning, guys. Got the boys out for a couple practices. First game's April 2nd. What would be your top of the list things to work on before the first game, 9 and 10-year-old boys? Hey, Chad, that's a good question. One of the things that we worked on the other day since we went outside was we had each pitcher throw to 3 batters. And why do I think that's important? I think that's important because A, the pitchers are starting to see batters live. The hitters are starting to see pitchers throw the ball. And when they hit the ball, they're running the bases. So you put them in their actual positions. You play the ball live off the bat. You have a coach standing right there. So if that pitcher's struggling a little bit, you can then have the pitcher throw. So the balls are being hit. You're seeing stuff live. You're seeing what you need to work on for your next couple of practices. But there's nothing better than hitters seeing live pitching, pitching seeing live hitting. The catchers are now able to throw down, and you can kind of get a good idea of what do we need to work on. And then, of course, putting them into their positions and doing like an infield outfield. And you're hitting it to the, left field first, he's throwing it to second. You're working on the cuts, making sure guys are in the right spots. Then you're going to third, you're going home, and you're working around the outfield, working around the infield. So that'll probably take you about 15 to 20 minutes to do a really good infield outfield, mix in a bunch of fly balls. But I think that's a really good thing that we did the other day to get our pitchers throwing live. They only threw to 3 batters, so if a guy was struggling a little bit, it was only 3 batters. And it kind of moved pretty quickly, and it was the kids really had a good time with it. So.
Yeah. I think that's perfect because then, you're going to have a whole list of things that you need to work on, in the upcoming practices. But like Duke said, those inter-squad scrimmages are great. You can have a coach standing on third, giving signs to the base runners, right? So you're practicing signs in addition to all the things that Duke just mentioned. But I think that's the best way to, attack just a few practices before the season starts. Is you as coaches will get a good grasp of, what are we good at, what do we need to work on, and then each practice you touch on, 1 or 2 of them leading up to the season. But April 2nd, right around the corner, you got 2 weeks just like us. We're looking forward to it. I'm coaching the 12U team right now, and we've got a lot to work on before opening day with not a lot of time. So we're not going to try to dive in and attack it all at once. We're going to just go week to week and, like Duke said, try to do some simulated games, some scrimmages, and put the best product out there in 2 weeks.
Definitely. And like we always say, if you like what we're talking about, give a thumbs up, throw a heart up there. Get pumped up. We love watching. We love seeing. We have a big board right here, so all the questions are popping up for us. So we're trying to hammer out the questions the best we can. If anybody else has any input on how they're doing things, you can add that in the comments as well. So coaches helping coaches, that's what it's all about. There was a really good one, good question about obstruction and obstruction with runners. I think that was with 7 and 8-year-olds. That was Brian Bain having problems with that. The same thing happens when kids standing in the base pass, forcing collisions, or the runner to alter their path to the base. Obviously, we don't want people hurt. What do we tell our players? Run around them, yell, move. I think that when you're talking 6 and 7-year-olds, that's so hard. I think that we as coaches have to make sure that the other coaching staff and the other coaches are aware of this, that, if their players are doing it, that they can really explain to them what's going on. I also think that, tell the umpires prior to the game, hey, at this age group, there's a lot of obstruction going on. There's a lot of kids that stand, the ball's hit to right field and the first baseman just runs the first and just stands there. So when the kids are trying to run around the bases, it's almost like there's collisions and kids are just running all around. So I think that as a coach, explaining what that means, why, when we're the team that's actually running, I don't think there's a problem with telling a kid as you're running and getting closer to him to yell, move, 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 and he moves out of the way, because at 7 years old, they just don't even know what they're doing yet. Like they don't even know that it's wrong. So, and as soon as it is over, making sure that we do communicate with that player, hey, in that same exact situation, when the ball's hit out there, you can't be near the base, you have to be in front of the base. That's the advice that I would give, is just really overly communicating the situation.
We've got another good one from Michael Hallinan. My 14-year-old grandson made the JV team at school. He's only one of 3 freshmen who made the squad. He's been told playing time will be limited, and he's a little bummed. I told him it's a big accomplishment, and he should make the most of his chance when it comes. He's used to being one of the top dogs on the team, been one of his coaches up until this point. My experience is at every level right up until college. He works hard, and he's earned this. But 72-year-old grandpa is a little lost as to what more to offer. That's a really, really good point there, and I think a lot of kids are going through that right now because high school tryouts just happened. You know, there's guys getting bumped up to varsity, they're getting bumped up to JV, and you know, maybe they've played travel up until this point and, you know, been one of the starters. And I actually just talked about it recently. We had our big signing day here at Zone, where we, you know, award all of the kids, baseball and softball players, moving on to playing college. And I had a similar talk with them because they're moving on to playing college. You know, they're going to be the freshman, they're going to be the young guy on the team again, young guy or girl on the team, and you've got to earn your stripes. And you know, one message I would send your grandson is, you know, do whatever you got to do to help your team win today. And it's challenging because it's not the role that he's used to, especially if he's used to being one of the top dogs. And I'm sure batting in the heart of the lineup, you know, starting out on defense every game. But you can learn a lot by getting bumped up to a higher tier. And you know, we're all going to go through it. I went from batting 3rd in college to batting 8th or 9th in pro ball. And I remember looking at the lineup card thinking to myself, man, like, I'm not that good. I'm not as good as, you know, I was in college. And it was the same thing going from, you know, being a starter in high school to my freshman year. I was a backup at first, my freshman year of college. And it all comes down to, you know, showing up and being ready to play every day. Not pointing fingers. You know, let's not look at, I played shortstop, so I couldn't look at the shortstop that was starting and, you know, hope he's making errors or say, oh man, I wouldn't have struck out in that situation. It's what can I do to help my team win today? So I show up early. I'm carrying the ball bucket. I'm the first one on the field. I'm the last one to leave. I'm getting my early work in the cages, and I'm trying to push all the guys around me. I think the thing that he can control right now is his attitude, his effort, his work ethic. He can show up with, you know, those 3 things every single day, and weird things happen, right? Kids get hurt, kids get sick. There's going to be a spot that opens up for him at some point, but he's got to make sure he's ready for it. He can't, you know, sit at the end of the dugout because it's early in the season and just be bummed he's not playing. And, you know, I remember my freshman year of high school, I was playing JV as well. I was playing shortstop, and I thought I could have been playing varsity, but I wasn't. I was starting, you know, on the JV team, and 3 weeks into the season, the shortstop got hurt or was academically ineligible. I forget what it was, and I got my start on varsity, and then I stayed there. So there will be spots that open up throughout the season. I think, you know, your grandson it's a challenge because it's a new role for him, but if he shows up with the right attitude and the right work ethic every day, I think it'll pay off.
A couple years ago, we had it was like a pyramid that we did in one of our podcasts, and it was T-ball. Around here, sometimes there's only 7 or 8 kids on the team. They all make the team, and they all play the infield, right? Then you go to rookie ball or minors. Now there's 12 players, and they're all playing, and they're all on the field. Now they go to middle school. Now there's 12 kids on the team, but only 9 play. Right? So now, the higher you go in levels, the more guys are sitting. Now you have high school ball. 9 are playing, and there's 25 kids on the team. In college, there's 35 kids on the team, and only 9 playing. And it's almost like the better you get and the higher you go, the more you sit. Think about if you're on the LSU team, or you're on Vanderbilt, and you're on the college baseball team there. You're an absolute stud, right? But how many guys are actually sitting on the bench that were All-Americans? They were first-team All-States. They were the best. They were like the best in the country, but you're still trying to figure out how to be a great teammate, how to support them, and hey, when your time comes, take full advantage of it and be the best teammate that you can be. That's what being part of a baseball team. Not everybody can play. There's only 9 guys. So, you know, I think it is really challenging, and we see it all the time. Middle school, we have kids that sometimes don't even try out because they're afraid to get cut, or they make the team but they're not starting, so they leave and go somewhere else or do something different. It's like, man, just keep working hard, like Coach Steve said. It could have been easy for him just to quit and stop playing when he thought he should have been the starting shortstop, but he proved that over time he was, and then he was a dominating shortstop. So it all works out. You just have to keep on doing what you're doing. You're saying great grandpop stuff, and it's just tough because there's no perfect pill or there's no perfect thing to say that's going to make them feel better. It's just time and being supportive and all those things, but the cream always rises to the top.
Awesome. Larry Smith has a good one here. I'm coaching kids who are playing kid pitch for the first time. How do I get them comfortable in the batter's box with the possibility of getting hit by a ball and not discouraged if they do get hit by a pitch? That's a good one because we talked about it last week, and I think kid pitch for the first time. Kids are in the batter's box and they're so worried about getting hit that they're not even worried about hitting the ball. So I think at practice we have to teach them how to properly get hit, how to turn in, how to drop our barrel and tuck our chin, and how to get hit in the areas of our body that aren't going to hurt as bad. I think sometimes kids, they're in the batter's box and they get out of the way like this, and it drills them in the ribs or it drills them in the chest, or they get hit in the chin, and those are the injuries that are tough to come back from because they're really scary and they hurt really bad. But if you teach them how to get hit properly, where they drop their barrel, they tuck their chin, they turn in, they get hit in the butt or the back of the leg, or they get hit in the back, yeah, they're going to sting for a little bit and it's going to hurt. But we got to get down the first baseline. We got to wipe off the tears and be ready to go. So at practice, I would teach them how to get hit. I would actually mix in hitting the players, and not with a real baseball. You can use an Incrediball, a tennis ball, and make that a station. So they're in the batter's box. Maybe you're just doing front toss. They're hitting a few, and then maybe 1 out of every 5 you actually hit them, and they get out of the way. And it's teaching them that they're going to have time to get out of the way of the pitch, and they can still be aggressive in there. They can still look for that fastball and want to hit. They got to be in the batter's box, ready to hit the ball first, ready to get out of the way second. And like Duke mentioned earlier, doing the more live stuff you can do in practice, I think the quicker you're going to see that adjustment. If they're just seeing a kid on the mound on opening day for the first time, they're definitely going to be a little bit nervous. But if you can have those pitchers actually thrown to them in practice, the batter's in there, they're seeing more pitches, they're getting 20, 30 at-bats under their belt before opening day. I think it's so beneficial on both sides for the pitchers and the hitters. And also I had a kid a few years ago, he was going to Cooperstown. He just got hit by a ball. He was so nervous to get hit. And I told him, I said, how many times this season have you gotten hit by a pitch? And he said, twice. I said, well, how many at-bats have you had between rec ball and travel ball? And it was probably 100. So we don't want to waste the other 98 at-bats worried about the 2 times that we're going to get hit, because it's not going to happen often, and unfortunately it's part of the game. So I think all you can do is, pump them up with confidence, teach them how to get hit or get out of the way correctly, and then throw them in there. Throw them in there in practice and see how many at-bats he can get under his belt before he heads out for opening day. And, it's just one of those challenging things that kids all around the world are going to go through the first time they see coach pitch or kid pitch.
Definitely. Coach Mike Hess, I have a child on my 9 to 10-year-old team that throws too hard. And I love the explanation to throw so that the other kid can catch the ball. I'm going to use that and hopefully it works. Coach Mike, that is going to work. And, Coach Steve came up with a drill that works really well. It's called the windshield wiper drill. Because a lot of the kids that are younger or the kids that are not as advanced, the hardest challenge for them is that they don't put their hands in this position to catch, which can protect their face. Sometimes they start like this and then all of a sudden the ball's thrown and this is the position they get into. So whatever you do, make sure that you're getting your players to get in this position as they're getting ready to, to catch while they're playing catch. And you can do it by putting them on a bucket, having them stand here, or even putting them on a seat like this and throwing softy balls so that all they can do is catch by using their arm this way and not using their arm this way. So hopefully that drill helps as well with some of the kids that are, some of the beginner ball players to understand the difference between whether my palm's up or my fingers are up. So
yeah, and there's kids out at practice that the first ball they throw of the day is 100 miles an hour from 15 feet away. Like nobody can catch that. I'll do a lesson with a 10-year-old and without even warming up, his first ball is 15 feet away, 100 miles an hour. The balls are flying all over the place. So teaching your kids to warm up properly, but also play catch with a purpose. We're always trying to control the ball. When we're doing our catch play at the beginning of practice, it's always 4 seams, and we aim between the shoulders and the hips, and we always have to hit our partner right here. It's not a crow hop and see what our raw velo is going to be from 15 feet, because it's just not realistic. And once you build the confidence of those players that, oh man, I can catch the ball like this, just like Duke said with the windshield wiper drill. doing some tennis ball, some smush ball, using a bare hand at first, transitioning to the Incrediballs, then a baseball. Now they're going to be able to play catch from 45, 60 feet with no problem. But making sure that you teach them how to do it correctly is huge, especially on day one.
All right, that's good. That's real good. Scared in the box, we got that. Our son player. Hey, our son plays 8U machine pitch and plays first the majority of the time. At what age will that cycle of almost always playing there change, or will it? He loves the position, but he also wants to develop at other positions. Well, that should be happening already. At 8U, you can have it to where they're shifting every inning. They're going from first base to third base, from third to short, from short to second, and almost like work it like a wheel almost, especially at only 8. A lot of kids, they have no idea what position that they're going to be good at. So you can do the wheel to where you're kind of working your players in that way. I don't know if your son's a lefty or a righty. That will kind of limit him a little bit in what positions he can play. But I think at 8 years old, the kid should try to play multiple positions and really get a feel of what the different positions are. And the reason for that also is they better understand the other positions and what that player is supposed to do at that position. So if I'm a shortstop and the ball's hit to the outfield, the importance of turning to my glove shoulder. So when I'm playing the outfield now, knowing the importance of throwing that ball to his glove shoulder so I understand. Or I'm at second base and the outfielder keeps on throwing me short hops and in between hops that are making me do this. Now when I go in the outfield, I realize I either have to throw it to him in the air or give him the long hop that's going to him. So playing different positions just gets you that much better, and a better understanding, and your baseball IQ goes up much higher. So I'm a big fan of having players play all over the place, when they're doing that.
Yeah, and down the road, they're going to have to be able to play multiple positions. You might get to high school or middle school and there's a kid starting in front of you that's been there for a couple years, and you've got to be able to play those multiple positions. And, whatever is going to get you into the lineup. I have a girl, she's a really, really good freshman softball player. And she's been a shortstop her whole life, and she's starting varsity left field. And she can do it. She works on pop flies, she works on angles and drop steps, and it's just one of those things that, what can I help my team do to win today? Or what can I do to help my team win today? And what's going to get me in the lineup? If your coach says, can you play left? Can you play first? Can you play third base? Say yes, and go out there and get yourself in the lineup, as opposed to just saying, no, I'm a shortstop and I need to be playing shortstop and I'm bummed if I'm playing second. So I think the more you can do, the more valuable you're going to be down the road.
I think this is a good one. I think it's going to be interesting to hear how Coach Steve and I answer this one. It's from Coach Elizabeth Pinon. As far as coaching being direct to their players, what do you think is more effective for a 9U kid pitch team? Is calling out mistakes and an aggressive voice towards the players more effective during game time?
I think it all depends on the player. I'm not a fan of yelling out from the dugout. I think it's a lot more productive, for physical mistakes, because the errors are going to happen, to talk to the kid in between innings. If there's a kid that's making an error because his feet aren't moving, well, me screaming from the dugout, keep your feet moving, isn't going to help. But me putting my arm around him in between innings and saying, hey, remember what we worked on in practice? You're getting stuck, your feet aren't moving, we need to work on our right-left timing to get through that ball. Now he's going to be focused on me, he's going to be paying attention. If I'm screaming out from the dugout, he's embarrassed. His dad's probably already screaming from left field to catch the ball. He wants to make that play. So me screaming from the dugout isn't going to help anything other than, probably put more stress on the kid. It's the same thing, I see dads and moms standing behind home plate yelling from the on-deck circle at their son, head down, drive your hips, keep your hands inside the ball, don't drop the barrel. We're not playing a video game here. And these kids are out there trying to do well, trying to compete. So, I'm a big fan of talking in between innings, doing it quietly in the dugout. There's no reason to yell and scream and, bark out commands from the dugout. You're just going to put stress on the kid.
Yeah. And I always say this in the first day of practice. Listen, Coach Duke is a very infectious, kind of a loud guy. And when I'm talking to you, it might sound like I'm yelling, but I'm not. I'm coaching, and when you're on the field, I have to be loud so you can hear what I'm saying and understand. But I will never yell at somebody or say something that's embarrassing. It's for everybody. It's for everybody to hear. Just like in practice yesterday, somebody did something and we stopped, we went over and we helped everybody because everyone's gonna make the same mistake. So if somebody balks, you're yelling balk, you explain what it means and what happened, and then you move on to the next one, but I think that's really important. And us as coaches, I think when somebody makes a mistake, instead of pointing a finger at somebody else, I think we have to look at our thumb. Our thumb points right at us. Us as coaches, if Johnny keeps on fielding the ball incorrectly, I think it's our job to get Johnny to field the ball correctly. So we have to come up with drills to help Johnny so that he can catch the ball. Or if every single runner is not running the right way or nobody knows how to slide, it's not their fault, it's our fault. So we have to make sure that we are coaching the game. If the kids are doing something wrong, maybe we're not explaining it well. Maybe we're not doing a good job communicating how we want it to be done, even though we know what we're trying to say. Maybe they don't understand it, so we have to break it down or explain it a different way. At the end of a practice, talk to the coaches. Hey, coaches, how do you think it went today? Get their feedback on stuff. Or, hey, maybe we need to talk a little bit differently about our lead off second base because the secondary lead's not good. Maybe they don't understand what it means to take a secondary lead. Okay, next practice, we'll communicate it differently. But like Coach Steve said, if a kid makes an error and all of a sudden you're screaming out to them, that's the last thing that they need. They know they made an error, and I'm sure mom and dad are screaming. We had a player 2 years ago. Every time the pitcher would pitch, the dad would get his chair and sit right behind home plate, and he was looking just like this. Anytime there was a ball, he'd be arguing pitches, and it was just like, dude, what, like. God, and meanwhile, his son had to throw to him every single pitch. He's throwing home, and then he had to look at his dad. Did his dad think it was okay what he just did, or did he not? Did he need to do this? Did I like it? And then we were just like, listen, you can't sit back there anymore. Enjoy the game from over there, but having your son watch you every single pitch, that's tough. And think about us as coaches when our son's on our team. It's the same thing. We have to leave them alone a little bit. Let them play the game. The game's supposed to be fun. Practice is when we work hard. The game is for the kids. The game is for them to play it, for us to take notes, and for us to get ready and build the next great practice. It's not to yell at them and tell them all the things that they did wrong in the game, or else we're going to lose them real quick. And our job is to keep them in the game.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between physical mistakes and mental mistakes. If I get a kid that grounds out to the pitcher and he's walking down the first baseline, then you'll hear me yelling from the dugout, or you'll hear me yelling from the third base coach's box. If a kid misses a sign, those are times to get on your players. The physical mistakes, the parts of the game that happen so often, walking a kid, making an error, swinging and missing, maybe chasing a high fastball, those don't need to be addressed, in a fiery mash or a fiery, passion. It's got to be, talking in between innings, being calm, cool, and collected about it. But there are times where things that we can control, our attitude, our effort, those things cannot happen on the baseball field. And those are things I address early on in the season. I address them on day one. These are our guidelines, or these are the things that we're going to do every single day. We're going to be on time, and we're going to play the game hard. So if you're not playing the game hard, well, expect to be coming out of the game, sitting the next inning, expect to be spoken to loudly, but those other things where, another thing that comes to mind is there was a kid pitching, and it was 13U baseball. So it was his first time pitching from 60 feet, and he's struggling to find the zone. And after every pitch, his dad's screaming from the stands, throw a strike. And the kid looked at him like, what do you think I'm trying to do out here? And, I talked to him in between innings, and I wasn't trying to go against his dad or make his dad seem like a bad guy, but I told him, I said, flush out your dad. Just, put the blinders on. It's you and the catcher out there. Forget about it. Pretend he's not even there. And it's tough because at 13U baseball, you got 35 people watching the game, and they're all parents. So, his voice stood out to everyone, and everybody knew exactly who he was, and it's tough. It's one of those things where you don't want to go against the parents, but I think we as coaches need to be the the intermediary and try to get them to focus on the game and not what's going on outside the fences.
We're going to make sure that after after the session's over, we're gonna go back through, and any of the questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, we'll add videos in there. We wanted to add in, we're gonna add in one of the sliding videos. We're also gonna add in the video where Coach Steve and I are showing how to get out of the way of the ball properly. Coach Steve's throwing balls at me and I'm tucking and turning. And then I'm also gonna add another video about the kids being afraid of, hitting batters. That pitcher that's doing the same thing. Now he's pitching for the first time and he's throwing balls and he's afraid to hit the batter. So what are some good drills for that? So we're gonna, keep the questions coming. I think we're out of time right now, Coach Steve, unfortunately, but we'll keep these going. We're gonna try to, as much as we can, try to go live on Instagram. We're gonna try to go live on TikTok this week. We're also gonna be doing, Coach Steve's gonna be setting up a 1-hour hitting session, live virtual hitting session. We'll add the comments in there where we haven't come up with a date yet with that, but any player from any part of the country can watch in on Zoom and hit with Coach Steve. So it's gonna be awesome. Hope everybody enjoyed themselves. Coach Duke, Coach Steve at Zone Sports Academy, thanks so much. Coaches, thanks for taking on the title of coach. We know this is a really hard responsibility. We know it's really rewarding and really fun, but we know how tough it really is. So thanks so much again. We'll see you next time. Go dominate the diamond.